Hi friends, Michelle here, back with another video. And today I am excited to bring you all the books I recently hauled at one of my favorite libraries here where I live. Right now, I can't afford to buy any books at all, so I am really enjoying accessing the free books at the library. It's kind of like playing with house money. You know what I mean? It's like you can take up to 40 items with you. I did not get 40 items. I took out 11 books this time because I had a bag with me, but it was a small bag. So I just took as many as I could carry, kind of thing. I am reading one book I've committed to for the month of November, and that book is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I'm doing this as a buddy read with Isabel at Isabel Reads, as well as Dee from the Reading Room. Check out their channels. And I picked this up the other day, and I'm already about 300 pages in, so what I figured would take me a couple weeks to read is probably going to take me about 5 or 6 days to read because it is that engrossing and that unputdownable. I don't even know what to say. So if you know, you know. But being that I have read and currently reading a lot of Stephen King, I thought, why don't I try reading something by one of his sons? I've never read anything by Owen King or Joe Hill, both of whom are successful writers in their own right. So when I was at the library, I picked up, first of all, The Curator by Owen King. In this book, I'll just give you a little taste of what this is about here. It begins in a city named the Fairest, distinguished by many things, from its river, the mighty fair, to the mountains that split the municipality in half. It's basically this fictional place in the middle of nowhere kind of idea. Dora, one of the characters, has an obscure desire to find where her brother went after he died, believing that the answer lies within the Society for Physical Research where he worked when Dora was a child. With the city amid an overthrow of the ruling classes, Dora discovers the society all but burned to the ground, yet finds a way to become the wartime curator of the museum next door and the search for the truth. So, and I love this. You get the sense that this is kind of a curiosity shop / museum curator / medieval folktale. That's the vibe I'm getting from this so far. If any of you have read this, let me know what you thought. And yeah, I may very well check this out as I've never read anything from Owen King before. And I guess I'm curious to see just how close to the tree the apples have fallen. And with that said, I also picked up by Stephen King's eldest son, Joe Hill, Full Throttle. This one here is a short story collection, which I thought would give me a good sample size of what his writing is like before I dive into one of his novels. Yeah, from what I gather, it's a collection of short fiction from Joe Hill that dissects timeless human struggles in relentless tales of supernatural suspense, including In the Tall Grass, one of 2 stories co-written with Stephen King, and the basis for a terrifying feature film from Netflix. So yeah, of the two, Owen King and Joe Hill, I get the feeling that Joe Hill is more of a similar style to his dad. So yeah, I can't wait to see what this is like. And that's the beauty of the library too. You can read things out of your comfort zone. It's zero risk, and so why not? Next up, I picked up a book from an author who I read all the things we do in, what's the name of it again? You'll know what I'm talking about. We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. All the Things We Do in the Dark. I can't remember if that's the title of the book. I'm sorry. It's eluding me right now. But yeah, this is the novel that came before that one. And it sounds really good. It sounds like a creepy small town where a crime may or may not have been committed. We're following several really, sounds like well fleshed out characters in this one. And yeah, I love how Chris Whitaker in his previous, All the Colors of the Dark. That's the book I'm talking about that I loved. I also did a full review of that book on my channel if you're interested. But so yeah, loved All the Colors of the Dark. We Begin at the End seems similar in that he does fantastic work with characters. They're really, really well fleshed out and realistic seeming, yet quirky at the same time. And they're flawed and yet very human and emotionally, emotionally challenged, I would say. So can't wait to dive into this one. If it's any half as good as the other one, I'll be happy. Next up, I just grabbed, and that's another thing I like to do, is just peruse the general fiction shelves and see what catches my eye. And I picked up this book, The Final Case by David Guterson. This is kind of a legal drama, which we focus on the main character, who is a writer, and his 80-year-old father is a lawyer. I'll just read you a bit of the synopsis here to get an idea. A girl dies one late rainy night a few feet from the back door of her home. The girl, Abiba, was born in Ethiopia. Her adopted parents, Delva and Betsy Harvey, conservative white fundamentalist Christians, are charged with her murder. Royal, a Seattle criminal attorney in the last days of his long career, takes on Betsy Harvey's case. So this octogenarian lawyer decides to take on her case. An octogenarian without a driver's license, he leans on his son, the novel's narrator, as he prepares for trial. So begins the final case. And this is told from the perspective of the son, who is helping out his father with this intense, racially charged, social, really emotional kind of a trial that's coming up. And I can't wait to see what happens, how this unfolds. I read a couple pages, and the narrative voice of the son is really interesting and really engaging and kind of funny. So yeah, I think with a book that tackles a subject matter as heavy as this, you almost need a little bit of humor in there just to kind of make it more enjoyable as you're reading and give some levity to the situation. So yeah, this gives off To Kill a Mockingbird vibes kind of, and sounds kind of interesting. It's a little short book, so I'll see if it hits me on the right mood and the right day. Next up, I found, and this is another one that the cover stood out to me as soon as I grabbed it. It's called Blood Test by Charles Baxter. This sounds like a very contemporary, well, it says right on the cover that it's a comedy, so that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a really good time with this one. In this book, it's a fresh take on love and trouble in America. Brock Hobson, an insurance salesman and Sunday school teacher, and a hilariously relatable protagonist, submits to a predictive blood test. Charles Baxter, a master storyteller, brings us a roller coaster of a narrative about the results. From Brock's good-as-gold girlfriend to the macho subcontractor his ex-wife left him for, not to mention his well-raised teenage kids now exploring sex and sexuality. The secondary characters in Brock's life contribute to the drama as increasing challenges to his sense of self and purpose crash over him. I mean, it sounds funny, it sounds heartwarming, it sounds like an unputdownable read to me that you can just fly through in an afternoon or two. So I can't wait to read this. I think it'll be really good. I've never heard of this before, so hopefully it'll be a good pick. Next up, I have a book that I have heard of before. I think it was making the rounds on BookTube a couple years ago, and that book is Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib. In this book, we're following a father and son who go on vacation, or they're at on a beach, oceanside, and all of a sudden, this guy comes walking up to them. He's somebody from the son's past. In fact, he, when they were in grade school, used to bully the son, whose name, single father Todd, and his son Anthony. So they're on the beach. They see this guy walking towards them, and the guy turns out to be Anthony's bully, who tormented him relentlessly when they were kids. Now that, after this random run-in with this guy Jack, they spend some time with him, and what follows is a fast-paced story of obsession and cunning. As Jack invades Todd's life, pain and intimidation from the past unearth knife-edge suspense in the present. What's not to love about that? Knife-edge suspense? Are you kidding me? I love that. So, and also, it's set in a small town on the New England coast. That was enough to reel me in. So I'm hoping this will be good. Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib. If you have read this, let me know what you think or what you thought of it. This book was huge. I saw it absolutely everywhere. And I resisted the hype. I did not purchase it. I thought about it, but then I put it back. I grabbed it off the shelf a couple times, going back and forth last year when it was really popular. And I have wanted to read this book. It's just not a book that I wanted to prioritize. I had other books that caught my interest more, but the book I'm talking about is James by Percival Everett. I know a lot of you probably have read this one, and everyone has nothing but good things to say about it. I've never read Huckleberry Finn, I believe. Is that Mark Twain, the story that this is based upon? James is one of the characters from that book. I have no knowledge of that going in. Nothing about the history of that story or anything that happens in it. I know the name and I know who Mark Twain is. That's it. So you could say I'm going into this completely blind. And I find that's oftentimes the best way for me to enjoy a book. So yeah, we're following this Jim. And he overhears that he's about to be sold to a man in New Orleans, separated from his wife and daughter forever. He runs away until he can formulate a plan. Meanwhile, Huck has faked his own death to escape his violent father. As all readers of American literature know, thus begins the dangerous and transcendent journey by raft down the Mississippi River toward the elusive and unreliable promise of the free states and beyond. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what all the hype is about for this. I think I will love it. This might be a 4 or 5 star prediction. I hope so. I'll check it out. Another book that caught my eye that I've never heard of before is Kay's Lucky Coin Variety by Anne Y.K. Choi is the author. And this, I absolutely love an immigrant story. I love a survival story also, and oftentimes these two are one and the same, or both kind of happening at the same time. So in this book, we're following a Korean girl who's growing up with her brother above her parents' convenience store on Queen Street West in 1980s Toronto. Caught between two cultures, she struggles to make her parents understand what she really wants is to be Canadian. Mary soon learns that life is much more complicated than she ever imagined. While her parents' world centers on their store, with its endless hours and low financial rewards, she has her first adult encounters with family secrets, a lost aunt, and forbidden love. If only she could escape the drudgery. If only her mother would not try to run her life. If only she could fulfill her adolescent dream of being a writer. All those things sound very interesting to me. It sounds like a coming-of-age story set in the 80s. She's a writer. She's got some odd relatives. I mean, what's not to love? This sounds really interesting to me. Yeah, Kay's Lucky Coin Variety. Kay's Lucky Coin Variety by Anne Y.K. Choi. Let me know if you read this one. Like I said, I haven't heard anyone talking about it so far, so thought I'd pick it up. All right. Next, we have what seems to be a contemporary, kind of a quirky, weird, funny book, maybe, called Cult Classic by Sloane Crossley. I'll just read you a little bit of the synopsis here. Another book set in New York City, which I also love. What's not to love about that? But anyhow, one night in New York City's Chinatown, a woman is at a reunion dinner with former colleagues when she excuses herself to buy a pack of cigarettes. On her way back, she runs into an ex-boyfriend, and then another, and another. Nothing is quite what it seems as the city becomes awash with ghosts of heartbreaks past. What would normally pass for coincidence becomes something far stranger. The recently engaged Lola must contend not only with the viability of her current relationship, but with the fact that both her best friend and her former boss, a magazine editor turned mystical guru, might have an unhealthy investment in the outcome. Memories of the past swirl and converge in ways both comic and eerie as Lola is forced to decide if she will surrender herself to the conspiring of one very contemporary cult. Hilariously insightful and delightfully suspenseful, cult classic is an original. That sounds right up my alley. I love everything about that premise. Relationship drama, suspense, a cult, people conspiring against this poor woman who's trying to figure everything out. Sounds like I'm really going to enjoy this one too. I have high hopes for it. I'll follow up in the future if I do read it and let you know. All right, we're getting toward the end of my haul. Another book that has to do with an immigrant family is I Leave It Up to You by Jinwoo Chong. I had previously heard of him in his other book called Flux. It was kind of a sci-fi futuristic novel. This sounds like a real departure. It's completely different from his other books, and the premise sounded really good to me. In this book, following a man named Jack who awakens from a coma to a world he barely recognizes. His advertising job is history, his Manhattan apartment is gone, and the love of his life has left him behind. He's been asleep for 2 years. With no one to turn to, he realizes it's been 10 years since he last saw his family. He's lost and disoriented, so he makes a reluctant homecoming back to the bustling Korean-American enclave of Fort Lee, New Jersey, back into the waiting arms of his parents who are operating under the illusion that he never left. And back to Joya, their ever-struggling sushi restaurant that he was set to inherit before he ran away from it all. So I love a story about second chances and near-death experiences. And, this guy just woke up from a coma. So he's completely lost, has to reevaluate everything he thought he knew from before and go back to his family. And I can't wait to see what unfolds in this one. I Leave It Up to You. Sounds like a fantastic read. I love the cover as well. It seems really contemporary and should be a fun one. All right, the last book I have to show you and tell you about is another very odd book, but one that sounds fantastic. It sounds like a popcorn thriller, a really fast, bingeable, suspenseful, fast-paced thriller book, and that is Good Me, Bad Me by Ali Land. This book has to do with a serial killer, I believe. Yes, it's a girl's mother. Millie's mother is a serial killer. Though Millie loves her mother, the only way to make her stop is to turn her into the police. Millie's given a fresh start, a new identity, a home with an affluent foster family, and a spot at an exclusive private school. She just wants to start over. New name, new family, shiny new Millie. But Millie has secrets too, and the life at her new home becomes complicated. Her foster sister Phoebe starts to bully her. A teacher betrays her trust, and her new best friend tempts her into behaving badly. They have no idea who they're dealing with. As her mother's trial looms with Millie as the star witness, Millie's past haunts her. As she prepares to help put her mother in jail for good, she starts to wonder how much of her is nature, how much of her is nurture, and whether she is doomed to turn out like her mother. I mean, to me, that sounds really interesting. Perfect book to binge on a weekend, and the question of nature versus nurture. I know, having watched a ton of documentaries about serial killers and psychopathy and abnormal psychology, I know there is sometimes a genetic component involved that triggers people to go down the path of becoming a serial killer. Certainly not all psychopaths, of course, turn out to be serial killers, but certain characteristics that are intrinsic help to lead them in that direction. So I can't wait to dive into this one. It sounds really good and a really suspenseful kind of a thriller, which I love. And there you have it. The 11 books I picked up from my library that I can't wait to dive into in November. Like I said, I'm probably be done with my big chunker from Stephen King in the next week or so. So I'll have lots of time to at least hopefully dive into at least 5 or 6 of these selections. And I can't wait to tell you about them and see if any of my 4 or 5 star predictions have come true. What I liked, what I didn't like from the pile. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic November reading month. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.